Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining another of our learning labs. So today we're going to be taking you through the latest release of Sage Intacct 2025, and that's release 3. Just before we get started, I'm just going to do some introductions and a little bit of housekeeping for those of you that have not joined a learning lab with us before. So my name is Fiona, I work in the customer success team, and taking control of today's learning lab will be Franco, who works on our Intacct support team. A little bit of housekeeping. So microphones will be muted throughout the session. There is a question box in the GoToWebinar panel on the right hand side of your screen. If you do have any questions as we go through, feel free to pop those questions in there. There will also be the opportunity at the end of the session to unmute your microphone and you can ask the question. Or I will read out any questions that you've popped in the box. So there's a couple of opportunities at the end of the session of asking questions. Also, today's session is going to be recorded and you will get a copy of that recording via email once the session is complete. Please feel free to share that with anyone who was unable to make today's session. I think that's all from me. I will catch up with you again at the end of the session and I'll hand you over to Franco now. Thanks.
Thank you, Fiona. Good afternoon and welcome all to our learning lab this afternoon, which I once again have the pleasure of presenting. I'm Franco, as Fiona said, and I'm looking forward to delivering today's new feature session. I was explaining to the team this morning how I enjoy delivering these new feature sessions, as it's like giving someone a gift or some good news. So I'm hoping that there'll be a piece of good news or something of interest for everyone on this webinar today. There's a fair bit of content in today's presentation, so I'm going to get straight on with it. As you will see from the current slide, today's Learning Lab explores what we consider to be the highlights from this year's third release of Sage Intacct, which was rolled out on the 8th of August. So, as you can see from the agenda currently on the screen, there's a fair few topics I'm intent on covering today. Rather than simply read the topic listed to you, I'm going to instead just get on with presenting them to you. As Fiona's already mentioned, there'll be time at the end of today's session for any questions you may have. Just a quick point to note before I continue. You may find that some of the slides in my presentation, as well as my demo system, will use American terms as I'm using Sage's demo data with preferences set to US format. And so please bear this in mind if you see terminology on my screen which you're not immediately familiar with. So before I talk about the new features, I would like to start by giving a quick review of this release. That is in terms of how it fits in overall with this year's releases. So this release and the new features we're looking at today relate to Sage's third release this year, which was deployed as planned earlier this month. The dates shown on the current slide for this year's previous two releases initially served as a guide to Sage's targeted release dates, but in actual fact, they've all been rolled out on time. So given this year's track record, there's a good chance the final release of this year is likely to occur on or around the 7th of November, as you'll see, which happens to again be in line with Sage's current pattern of release of either the first or the second Friday of the month at the start of that quarter. So let's get back to presenting the new feature highlights, and we're going to start by taking a look at the long-awaited customer refunds routine. So here it is finally, the Intacct customer refunds feature. This function provides the ability to raise a refund in Intacct allocated to the customer's available credit all in one routine. Therefore, no longer does one have to go through the tedious step of creating balancing adjustments for refunded credits. As you'll appreciate, this in turn results in tidier bookkeeping and reporting. A customer refund is now easier to track because of its accompanying audit trail log. Before I demonstrate how the routine works, please allow me to provide you with a quick overview first of how to enable the feature beforehand. So first, to enable the feature, you'll need admin permissions to be able to access the accounts receivable configuration screen, which you'll see on your screen. There in the enable functionality section, you'll find the new option, enable recording of customer refunds. So that needs to be ticked. After selecting this option, to complete the setup, a journal type must be selected, as well as a sequence number configured for refunds. So please note that after the refunds feature has been enabled, the configuration screen cannot be exited until those steps have been completed. So to complete the configuration, start by scrolling back to the top of the AR configuration screen to the journal section, where a customer refund journal type can be set. Again, you can see that in the corner of my screenshot, boxed in red. I've kept this the same in my demo system as my AR invoice journals, that is accounts receivable journals, or ARJs. You may find similar on your own. Further down in the accounts receivable configuration screen, and in turn in the document sequencing section, you'll find there's a new customer refunds field. We suggest you review your document sequencing rules and protocols beforehand, and accordingly add a new document sequence as required here. You'll see that in my demo system, as captured in the screenshot on the current slide, I've simply added ARRFD prefix to a 4-digit number which starts at 1. As you appreciate, that can be whatever you choose, and again, as mentioned, in line with your protocols. After saving and exiting from the AR configuration screen, remember to set your user permissions to ensure the users who require access can begin using the new feature. On the current slide, you'll see a screenshot of the Intacct refund screen, and consistent with Intacct's other transaction entry screens, you'll start by essentially selecting the customer to view the credits available for refund. Then you'd go on to select a credit currency to show credits with the same transaction currency. For customers with many credits available, you can sort and filter columns to find the credits you want to refund. The available credits displayed will consist of the customer's advances, their adjustments, their overpayments, or negative AR sales invoices, which have a remaining balance. For each credit, Intacct shows the credit type, the transaction amount, and the credits available. If required, you can drill down into the transaction for more details. You can refund a partial amount also by editing the amount to refund for the selected credit. As with most of Intacct's transaction processes, there's now also a customer refunds list view. What you'll note with this list view is that there's only an enhanced version. You'll know what that means in a moment, because that's the next topic. As you'll appreciate, there's no point in Sage developing a list view in a format that's soon to be become defunct. So yeah, it's the enhanced view only for refunds. Right, let me switch to my test demo system so that I can demonstrate this to you. Right, so the configuration options first. Let's go to accounts receivable and setup and configuration. Bear with me one moment. Let me do that from the top level. Accounts receivable, setup and configuration. So as mentioned, a customer refund journal needs to be specified right here. And again, as mentioned, I've chosen to choose the same one I've got for invoices and adjustments. if I scroll down, you'll see here the enable recording of customer refunds is selected. And if I scroll further down to document sequencing, you'll see that I have got a customer refunds document sequence. Whilst I'm here, can I please ask you to note the customer advance sequence? I'll be referencing this later, so when you not refer to it, then please remember that's here. So after these configurations are made and permissions granted, a customer refund can be processed. So naturally, you'd make these changes and click Save. Let me switch back to my entity because what I want to show you is how a user will go about creating a refund. So we go to accounts receivable. All find there's a refunds option there after it's been enabled and permissions granted. So I'm going to click on refunds. I'm going to create a new refund. And I'm going to select a customer. I can provide a reference. I'm going to change the bank here. And you'll see that I have a number of transactions here, which I can select. I'm going to pick this top one here, a refund of $5, and I'm going to post it. There we go. Obviously, I can drill down further on this, but what I'd like to do is very quickly show you the reports and how they will appear as expected. So if we go to accounts receivable reports and down to the AR ledger, I'm going to leave it for today's date. I'm going to pick my customer, which I used, location, which already actually. You'll see that my refund is displayed right there at the bottom. Right there. And you'll see I've made another one as a test earlier on. What I'll also show you is if that we go to cash management and registers bank, the bank I selected is already shown. I'm just going to click view. And you'll see here again my test, which I've just done with you, and the one that I did earlier on in the week. So isn't that much better? Hopefully the AP refund will follow in quick succession. Right. Let's turn our attention to the next feature. So I've just touched on how the customer refund list view is only available in the new enhanced mode. So this is because Sage are going to be decommissioning what they call the old action list views. And you may have noticed how Sage have started replacing some of the default views in some areas of the system. That's because Sage's plan is as follows. So by release 4, which is, as you may recall from my earlier slide, on or around the 7th of November, all user list views will be defaulted to the new enhanced view. However, however, you will have the ability to be able to switch back to the existing action list view if you wish. By release 1 of 2026, we've yet to get the date on that, so but by release 1 of next year, Sage will post in product messages to encourage use of the new enhanced list views. But again, you'll still be able to use the old action list views if you want. In release 2 of 2026, the in product messages posted by Sage will advise of pending switch off of the old action list views. And finally, by release 3 of 2026, action list views will be switched off and decommissioned, and with enhanced list views becoming standard functionality. So using the screenshot on the current slide as a reference, you'll see that if a list view looks somewhat different to what you were accustomed, then it's been changed to the enhanced list view. And this will be indicated so by the label in the top left-hand corner of the screen. If you wish to switch back to the previous action list view, then simply click on the ellipses button in the top right-hand corner of the screen, and there you'll find the option to turn off enhanced list views. You'll note that in the same menu is an option to send feedback to Sage on the enhanced list views, and as I've mentioned in previous learning labs, I'd recommend taking every opportunity to provide Sage with feedback where invited. And frankly, that's how Intacct will continue to develop for the better. Yeah. I'm going to shortly switch to my demo system again to highlight just a few of the advantages of the new enhanced list over the action list. You'll see on the current slide a short list of the advantages of using the new lists, and allow me to demonstrate these to you. So I'm going to switch back to my demo system. So let's go to accounts receivable for this part of the demo, and I'm going to click on customers. So you'll notice that this is using the enhanced list view. And I'm going to start by, because my attention is drawn immediately to this button with a 2 in it. Reason being is that by default, Sage have configured this list view to show only the active customer records. So if you've marked customer records as inactive, they won't appear. And also it's been set to view or to hide one-time use only customers. So you're only seeing your active customer list. I can add additional filters if I wish here, or simply come out of it. If I go to the settings, and that's the cog button in the top right corner, here I can select to display or hide columns. So again, for the purpose of the exercise, I'm going to go through and pick a number of them. Let's go with credit limit, default currency, the last invoice date, I think is quite good. Last statement date, is the customer on hold? And I've got a custom field here that's called some extra notes. And lastly, status and tax ID. So all I'm demonstrating here is how quickly and easily and all the fields I've got available to select on this view. If you remember, it was a bit more cumbersome previously. I had to create a managed view. I'm going to click apply. And what you'll notice is it goes away, has a bit of a think, and refreshes. And you'll see there's some more fields now on my view. And you'll notice also that I've got a scroll bar at the bottom because I've selected quite a few that sends it off the page. If I scroll across, I can see I've got my notes field here, the last one. If I double click on the separation line, what will happen again, it takes a moment to think about it, but it expands. I could have dragged it as well, by the way, but it's expanded my my notes field. Obviously, if your notes are very big in this example, that's possibly a dangerous thing to do, because I'm not certain how far to the right that would have extended. But so a drag and drop is probably a better approach in those circumstances. I'm going to scroll back to the start of my list. What you can do here, again, a really nice feature, is if I click on the cog, I can freeze this frame. Sorry, let's do that again. And you'll see that a dark line emphasizes the fact that I have frozen my list, a bit like an Excel spreadsheet, on those two columns. So if I scroll now, those two columns are frozen. So I can always see my customer ID and customer name. Also, a nice feature is I can pick up a field and move it around. Sorry, let's do that again. And a dark blue line highlights where I've dropped it. Once you let go, in it goes. Something else that's really nice, I think, is if I, for example, type in Ireland into the state field here and click enter. There's a little bit of think and filters my list to show all of my customer records that are in this case, in Northern Ireland. Now, if I select this button here, which is the split view button, my enhanced list goes on to become a drill down screen, and it displays my customer detail window. So if I click on a customer like so on the left hand side panel, it displays the appropriate customer details view on the right. And if I was at top level where this customer was created, I'd have an edit button so that I could edit this customer in situ. So I don't have to separately go to open another window to edit it. So as you can see, the list view has become significantly more flexible, I think. And I think this brief demo clearly demonstrates the increased flexibility, as Sage have put it. Let me switch back to my demo to see what we've got next. Right, delegate approver for AP invoice approvals. So going to swap to accounts payable for our next feature highlight. The next feature is actually one that's come from the Sage Ideas Hub. So this highlights, in my opinion, that Sage is working through those voted for ideas. If there's an idea you've been meaning to check or log, please do so, because Sage is monitoring that list. The delegate approver for AP invoice approvals does exactly what it says on the tin. When an individual approver knows they're going to be out of the office, they can switch on delegation in their preferences and specify the duration of their absence. So during this time, any new AP purchase invoice submission will be routed to the user selected as the delegate approver instead. When the delegation period ends, as you'd expect, any newly submitted AP purchase invoices are then routed back to the original approver. I'm going to once again shortly switch to my demo system to demonstrate how to enable this feature and set the delegate. But just before I do so, let's briefly look at how this feature can help users. As you'd expect, the aim of such a feature is to ensure system processes continue unhindered despite an individual's absence, whether planned or otherwise. And whilst Sage continues to enhance the auditing and logging of processes generally in Intacct, this new feature is fully audited. Right, let me switch back to my demo system to take a look at what's required to start using this feature. As you'll appreciate, again, an admin is required to configure this. So for this, I'm going to switch to top level. I'm going to go to accounts payable, and I'm going to go to setup and configuration. I'm going to scroll down to the bill approval settings, or invoice approval settings as it would be on a UK system. So that should be here. There it is. You can see that I've got the enable delegation ticked, and because of that, I have a manage button. When I select the manage button, the manage delegates screen is launched, and you will be asked to specify a default delegate, and must do so, by the way, before you can configure any other delegates in this list. Once you've done so and you've picked any immediate changes that you want to make, you can click save. Click save to commit the configuration. Once this is done, individuals with approval roles will see the approval delegation section in their preference screen. So for users to assign a delegate during their absence, they simply need to go and configure so in their preferences. So with my user here at ML, if I go to my preferences, scroll down a little, you will see that Emma has approvals sections specified, and Emma could set a start and end date for the delegation to Tom in her absence. That's it. A welcome new feature, wouldn't you say? Right, let's go back to see what's next. Right, so we're going to stay on accounts payable for this next new feature. This next one, in my opinion, is a simple but extremely useful time-saving feature. I think it's so simple that the title and screenshot alone will, I think, suffice in explaining its function. So where permissions allow, a pay button option is now available for each supplier on the supplier vendor list view. So you'll see then in the current slide. When this option is selected, the Pay AP purchase window is launched, showing that suppliers open invoices if there are any. So another welcome change, I think. I'm going to swap back to a customer-related new feature here, as this next one is very similar to the one I've just mentioned, in that it's related to a list view. And again, it can be explained quite simply via a screenshot. So here in this screenshot, you'll see I've highlighted the box. Need I say more, really? Personally, I think these shortcuts are welcome additions to the system. Just clicking on the apply payment link here on our customer record in this customer list view launches the receive payments pop-up window, displaying the customer's open AR sales invoices. And all that remains for the user is to select the invoices against which a payment has been made and post the payment in the usual way. Nice and easy. I'm going to stick with customer-related new features here. The following one has been described as an exciting new feature, as I read in one of the documents. So let's find out why it's exciting. The change, again, has come about as a result of Intacct customer feedback, and it's in fact a set of enhancements, a series of enhancements designed to streamline the selection of customer credits when receiving a payment. Essentially, Intacct will now automatically distribute the selected credits across the specified AR sales invoices. I think it's easier to demonstrate this one using an example, so we'll switch over to my demo system again. Let's go here. So say, for instance, that your customer has a credit of $1,000 and has made a payment of $200, which will fully pay their 3 open AR sales invoices that total $1,200. And it doesn't matter to you which credits are applied to which AR sales invoice. So to quickly record the payment using this new feature, you would do the following. We would go to accounts receivable and receive new payments. And on the add receive payment screen, sorry, forgive me, I've got to click add first. And on this screen, I'm going to again select my AB Square customer. I'm going to specify a reference. I'm going to also choose this bank account. I'm just going to check the currency is correct. It is, and I'm going to select the Show Invoices button. And here I am presented with the invoices for payment. So on this screen, I'm going to select. By the way, if I wanted to, I could use this filter again to specify a different selection of invoices, if there were other currencies, for example, or if there were specific references I was looking, specific references or invoice dates I was looking for. But for the purpose of this exercise, I'm just going to pick those invoices as mentioned. These are the ones that amount to $1,000. So I'm going to add and close. Right, I'm going to select the apply credits button, and I have got a credit here of 1,000, which I'm going to select and save. And what you'll note immediately is that Intacct has automatically distributed the credits across the 3 selected AR sales invoices. And now if I take the $200 a customer paid, it's allocated that completely. And essentially the transaction can be posted at this point, but I won't do so just yet. And the reason being is because I just want to demonstrate a different way of doing this. So if I go to accounts receivable again and then advances, because the credit I applied was the advance of $1,000, what I can do here is click the apply more next to that advance, and you'll see that I'm presented with a very similar screen to one you just saw a moment ago. That presents me with the invoices that I can select for payment. So I'm going to pick those same invoices once again. I'm going to click add and close. You see that it's again automatically allocated those. And if I come here and choose my, oops, let's expand the window first. Choose my dollar account, pick a reference, and apply the extra, oops, forgive me. Click on that properly. Apply the extra 200. What it should do. What it should do, I'm not certain if I've done this in slightly different order, is it should apply. Oh, it has. Sorry, it was just I wasn't looking properly. So it's applied that as well, like it did just a moment ago. And that's it. The transaction can be posted. So I'm not sure how exciting that was for you, but it's certainly clear to me how the new links and workflows reduce the need to have to open different tabs and switch between screens. So, how are we doing for time? I think I've got a bit more time. So, whilst on the subject of customer advances, there's been a few improvements made in this area. The first one is in this list is the one that I just demonstrated, and the other is the new ability to save advances to draft, which means you can essentially start working on an advance and save it with a view to continue working on it at a later time, or perhaps it's just your job to create the advances, but a manager's responsibility to post them. You may recall earlier when looking at the customer refund sequence, I pointed out the customer advances sequence as well and mentioned how I'd expand on it later on. Well, that comment was in reference to this. By setting up a customer advances sequence, each and every advance created thereafter will have its own ID, making it easier to trace and report on the advances created from that point onwards. So simply follow the same steps used to create the refunds number sequence, which I presented earlier on a screenshot, to create the advances number sequence. Right. For this penultimate new feature highlight, I'm turning your attention to the purchase module, the purchasing module. And for those of you that use this module, Sage have given us more time-saving functionality, again in response to a customer ideas hub submission, from what I could gather. So here again, we have a new feature that simply does what it says on the label. It's an enhancement to the purchasing workflow, which allows multiple documents or specific lines to be combined into a single transaction during conversion. So as an example, an invoice is received from a supplier for multiple orders, as well as lines from other purchasing orders. In this instance, a purchasing invoice would be created and the option to convert from an existing transaction selected in order to convert all of the purchase order documents. And then using the source document ID and source document line ID drop-down lists purchase orders as well as specific line items can now be selected to be included in a single payment transaction. So from the be included in a single payment transaction from the multiple converted documents or specific line items. As you'll appreciate, a review of your transaction definitions here may be required because before this functionality can be implemented. So please contact our customer success team if you'd like to explore this function further so that we can review this with you. There are many other new features which have been introduced with this release, but there's simply not enough time to go through them all here today. So here's a quick look at some of the others, which I think are worthy mentions, so that you can possibly review them in more detail at your convenience. The one which I've placed topmost here references a new feature which was introduced in the last release, actually. and which I touched upon in the new release highlights session back in May. And that's the new import service. As expected, Sage are enhancing this new import service with every release, and I suspect it's with a view to eventually replacing the existing Intacct import tool. If you've not yet done so, do please take the opportunity to familiarize yourselves with the new import service. Perhaps review the recording of that learning lab, as it may already include a function you can use, and I personally think that it's more user-friendly than the existing older import utility. Right, push for time, and just before I wrap up and hand back to Fiona, I'm going to take this opportunity, as I do with all my learning labs, to remind you, remind you all of the wealth of online resources which are immediately available to you to assist you with your Sage Intacct learning, as well as any Intacct related queries. You'll find most, if not all, of the information which I've presented to you today in Sage's support resources. To access this information, simply turn to the Intacct homepage, where at the bottom, as highlighted in my current slide, you'll find the links to most of these resources. Here you'll also find a link to the full release notes. Please do take a moment to review them and determine if there's anything else that may specifically help or impact your business or processes. If, of course, you still require assistance, then do please reach out to us on the community support desk or our customer success team. And finally, Fiona, are there any questions for us?
Thanks, Franco. No questions have come in at the moment. So if you do have any questions, you should now be able to take yourself off mute and ask away. If you are struggling to take yourself off mute, then pop any question you have into that question box and I'll read those out. So I will just give that a minute for any questions to come through.
That was slightly lengthier than usual, so hopefully I haven't lost anybody along the way, but there was a lot of content there.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the bigger releases. I think there's a lot in this one. I can't see any hands raised or any questions popped in there, so hopefully that means I haven't missed anyone and there were no questions come through. If you do have any questions following this session, then my email address is on screen at the moment, fiona@acuity24.com. Please do feel free to drop me a message and I'll get back to you on anything. Also, you can contact the support team for any assistance that you need. Thanks again for joining today, everyone. Hope you found it really useful. Definitely lots of content in this piece. Our next learning lab is going to be on the 11th September, and it's going to be on, we're going to be talking you through your Sage Intacct VAT submission. So lots of detail going in and around the VAT submissions. We hope you can join us. You should keep a lookout for the invite to this session. It should be coming out in the next week. If there's anything else you wish to discuss, then please do drop me a message. But thanks again for joining, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks, Franco.
Thanks, Fiona. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Have a good day.